My name is Eleanor, and at my age, I thought I had already seen everything life could throw at a woman. I am a grandmother. My hair is grey, my hands shake a little when I hold my tea, and my heart has carried more memories than most people could imagine. But nothing prepared me for the truth I discovered about the man I married. Before I go any further, please listen to me closely. If you love emotional, powerful stories that teach deep life lessons, I want you to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story like mine. And please, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? I read them all, and I want to know who is sitting with me as I tell this painful truth. Now, let me take you to the moment my whole family was destroyed. It was late at night. The house was quiet in that strange way that only old houses get. Too quiet, like they are holding their breath. My husband was asleep beside me. His breathing was slow and steady, just like it had been for over 30 years. I looked at him in the dim light and thought, this is the man I built my life with. Then my phone vibrated. Just once. I reached for it, thinking it was one of my grandchildren. But when I saw the message, my heart dropped so fast it felt like I was falling down a dark hole. It was from a number I didn't recognize. The message said only 3 words. You need to know. Before I could even think, another message came in. A video. My hands started to shake. Something deep inside me whispered that once I pressed play, my life would never be the same again. I pressed it. What I saw made me sit straight up in bed. The man in the video looked exactly like my husband. Same face. Same voice. Same scar on his left hand. But the words coming out of his mouth, they were not the words of the man I married. He was sitting across from another woman in what looked like an office. Papers were spread across the table. He was laughing in a cold way I had never seen. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. They still believe I'm someone else. They always will. I covered my mouth to stop myself from screaming. The woman in the video asked him, "What about your family?" And my husband, smiled and said, "They are just part of the story I tell. None of it is real. None of it was real." My ears started ringing. My chest hurt. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The video cut off suddenly. I sat there in the dark, staring at my phone, while the man beside me slept peacefully, completely unaware that his secret had just torn my heart in half. I looked at him again. The same man who held my hand when our first child was born. The same man who cried at our daughter's wedding. The same man my grandchildren called Grandpa. And all I could think was, "Who are you?" I slipped out of bed quietly and walked into the living room. My legs felt weak. Every step felt heavy, like the floor was pulling me down. Another message came in. This one had words. "The name he gave you isn't his real name." I dropped into the chair. My hands were cold. My mouth was dry. Then the final message arrived. "Everything you built with him is based on a lie. And soon, your children will find out too." That was the moment I knew. The man I married was never who he claimed to be. And the truth was about to destroy my whole family. I looked down the hallway toward the bedroom where he slept so calmly, and a single question echoed in my mind. Do I wake him up? Or do I start digging for the truth he's been hiding all these years? Because whatever I chose next, there was no turning back. And what I did next would shock everyone I love. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the living room until morning, holding my phone like it was a ticking bomb. Every time I looked at it, my chest tightened. I replayed the video again and again, hoping, praying, that I had misunderstood it. But each time, the words were the same. They still believe I'm someone else. I kept whispering to myself, "No, no, this can't be true." When the sun finally came up, the light felt harsh, almost cruel. Birds were singing outside like nothing was wrong. Like my world had not just cracked open. I heard footsteps behind me. "Eleanor," my husband called softly. Why are you up so early? I froze. That voice. The same voice from the video. I turned slowly and looked at him. He was standing there in his robe, rubbing his eyes, looking like the same man I had trusted for decades. I forced a small smile. I couldn't sleep, I said. He walked closer and kissed the top of my head. My whole body stiffened. That kiss used to feel safe. Now it felt like a stranger touching me. You worry too much, he said gently. Come, let's have breakfast. Breakfast. The word made me sick. I followed him into the kitchen, watching every move he made. How he poured the coffee. How he hummed under his breath. How normal he looked. How long have you been lying to me? I wanted to scream, but I said nothing. At the table, he talked about small things, the weather, the garden, our granddaughter's school play. I nodded and answered when needed, but my mind was far away. Finally, I asked as calmly as I could, do you ever feel like people don't really know you? He paused, just for a second, but I saw it. A tiny pause, a flicker in his eyes. What do you mean? He asked, smiling. I swallowed. Nothing. Just a thought. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You know me better than anyone. My heart broke a little more. After breakfast, he left for the day. As soon as the door closed behind him, my legs gave out. I sat down hard in the chair and started to cry. I cried for the young woman I once was. I cried for the family I thought I had. I cried because I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same again. Then I remembered the message. The name he gave you isn't his real name. I wiped my tears and stood up. If my life was built on a lie, then I needed the truth. I went to the bedroom and opened the old wooden cabinet where we kept our important papers. Marriage certificate. Birth records. Insurance documents. I spread them all out on the bed. Everything looked real. Everything looked proper. But then I noticed something strange. On one old document, his handwriting looked different. Not wrong, just slightly off. Like someone trying to copy a style that wasn't natural. My heart started pounding. I checked another paper. Same thing. I sat back slowly. What if even these papers are lies? That thought terrified me. I decided to go somewhere I hadn't been in years. The attic. The attic smelled like dust and old memories. Boxes were stacked everywhere, filled with our past, our children's drawings, old clothes, forgotten dreams. I opened box after box. Then I found one that made my hands shake. It wasn't labeled. Inside were old letters. Not addressed to me. They were addressed to another name. I read one. You must disappear completely. No contact. No mistakes. My stomach twisted. Another letter said, if they ever find out who you really are, everything will collapse. I sat on the attic floor, holding the letters, my heart beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. My husband, no, the man I married, had another life before me. Another name. Another truth. Suddenly, my phone rang. I jumped. It was my daughter. Mom, she said cheerfully, Dad said you sounded tired this morning. Are you okay? I hesitated. Should I tell her? Should I protect her? I'm fine, I lied. Just didn't sleep well. Well, don't forget, she continued. We're all coming over this weekend. The kids can't wait to see you and Dad. The kids. My grandchildren. I closed my eyes. Of course, I said softly. I'll be ready. When the call ended, I stared at the letters in my hands. They still believe I'm someone else. Those words came back to me like a cruel echo. I suddenly understood something that made my blood run cold. If this truth came out, it wouldn't just hurt me. It would tear my children apart. It would confuse my grandchildren. It would destroy everything we built. I put the letters back carefully and closed the box. I needed more answers. and I knew exactly where to start. There was only one person left who might know the truth about the man I married. Someone from his past. Someone he never wanted me to meet. That evening, as I stood by the window waiting for him to come home, my phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. A new message appeared. You found the letters, didn't you? My heart stopped. Then another message came through. Be careful. He's starting to suspect something. At that moment, I heard the front door open. His footsteps echoed down the hallway. And I realized, with terrifying clarity, that I was no longer just searching for the truth. I was now hiding from the man I thought I knew. When he walked into the living room that evening, I was already sitting there, pretending to read a book I hadn't turned a single page of. Why are you staring at me like that? He asked with a small laugh. I forced a smile. Am I? He set his keys down slowly. Too slowly. His eyes stayed on my face, searching, measuring. I had lived with this man for decades, yet suddenly I felt like I was standing in front of a stranger who was trying to decide whether I was dangerous. You're quiet tonight, he said. I'm just tired, I replied. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe me. That night, he didn't fall asleep right away. He lay on his side, facing the wall, breathing shallow and uneven. I lay still, counting every breath, afraid to move. Does he know I know? When his breathing finally became steady, I slipped out of bed again. I went back to the attic. The letters were still there, waiting. I took them downstairs and read them slowly, carefully this time. One letter mentioned a town I didn't recognize. Another mentioned a woman, only once, only in passing. She believes the story. She always has. Was that me? My hands trembled as I searched online for the town. It was small. Forgotten. The kind of place secrets could disappear in. Then I searched the other name. Nothing came up at first. But then, something did. An old article. No photo. Just text. It talked about a man who had vanished suddenly. Different name. Different age. But the description. My chest tightened. Same height. Same eyes. Same scar on the left hand. I felt dizzy. He didn't just lie about his name, I realized. He erased himself. I printed the article and folded it carefully, hiding it inside my cardigan. The next morning, I made a decision that scared me more than anything else. I was going to ask him. Not directly. Not yet. Over breakfast, I said softly. Do you ever miss your old life? Before me, I mean. He froze. The spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. What old life? He asked, his voice too calm. Before we met, I said. Your childhood. Your past. He set the spoon down. You know everything that matters, he said. Why bring this up now? I shrugged. When you get old, you start thinking about these things. His eyes stayed on mine for a long time. Then he smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. That afternoon, I received another message from the unknown number. You found his old name. I typed back with shaking fingers. Who are you? The reply came almost instantly. Someone who lost everything because of him. My heart sank. Another message followed. If you keep digging, you need to understand something. He will protect his lie at any cost. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about my children. About my grandchildren sitting at our table, laughing, trusting him completely. I remembered the way he taught our son to ride a bike. The way he held our daughter's hand on her first day of school. Was any of it real? Or was it all part of the story he told? The next day, I did something I never thought I would do. I followed my husband. I told him I was going to the market. Instead, I watched as he drove away, then followed him from a distance. He didn't go to work. He drove across town, then out of town, to a place I had never been before. An old building. Quiet. Empty. He parked and went inside. I waited in my car, my heart pounding so loud I thought someone might hear it. After a while, I couldn't stand it anymore. I got out and walked toward the building. Through a dirty window, I saw him sitting across from another man. They were arguing. I couldn't hear everything, but I saw enough. The other man slammed his hand on the table. My husband leaned forward and hissed something that made the other man go pale. Then my husband stood up. And for a brief moment, his face changed. The warm, gentle face I knew vanished. In its place was something cold, hard, dangerous. That was the moment I understood the truth. The man I married was not just hiding from his past. He was running from it. As he walked out of the building, I ducked back to my car, my hands shaking. My phone buzzed. Another message. Now you've seen it. I typed back. What did he do? There was a long pause. Then the reply came. If your children find out the truth, they will hate him. Another message followed immediately. If they don't, they may never forgive you. I sat there, staring at the screen, tears filling my eyes. I was trapped. Tell the truth and destroy my family. Hide it and live a lie. That evening, when he came home, he hugged me from behind. You seem distant lately, he whispered. Is something wrong? I swallowed hard. No, I said. I'm fine. He kissed my cheek. But as he walked away, he said something that made my blood turn cold. Just remember, he said quietly, some doors should never be opened. I stood there, frozen. Because I knew then. He knew I was getting close. And whatever he was hiding, it was far worse than I imagined. After he said those words, some doors should never be opened, I barely breathed. I stood there in the kitchen long after he walked away, staring at the wall like it might give me answers. My heart was beating fast and slow at the same time. Fast with fear. Slow with dread. That night, I realized something painful. I was no longer just his wife. I was now his secret keeper. And I had never agreed to that. When I finally went to bed, I lay with my back turned to him. I pretended to sleep, but my mind was racing. Every small sound made me jump. Every movement beside me felt dangerous. At some point in the night, he spoke. Very softly. Eleanor. I did not answer. He waited a few seconds, then said, You know I love you, right? Love. The word felt heavy. Yes, I said quietly. He sighed, as if relieved. Good. I didn't sleep at all after that. The next morning, I woke early and made breakfast like always. Eggs. Toast. Coffee. I moved slowly, carefully, like one wrong step might cause everything to fall apart. He watched me closely. You don't have to do all this, he said. I want to, I replied. That was a lie. I wanted normal. I wanted yesterday. I wanted the man I thought I married. But that man was gone. Or maybe he never existed at all. After breakfast, he left again. This time, he told me where he was going. That alone told me something was wrong. I'll be back before dinner, he said. Don't worry. Don't worry. I almost laughed. As soon as he was gone, my phone vibrated. The unknown number again. You're not safe pretending anymore. My hands trembled. I typed back. What do you want from me? The reply came slower this time. I want the truth to come out. I stared at the message. He ruined my family, the next message read. Just like he will ruin yours if you protect him. Tears filled my eyes. I wasn't protecting him. I was protecting my children. Or so I told myself. I thought of my son. Strong, kind, proud of his father. I thought of my daughter. Gentle, trusting, always saying how lucky she was to grow up with loving parents. I thought of my grandchildren, who ran into his arms every time he walked into the room. How do you explain to children that the man they love may not even be real? I set my phone down and covered my face with my hands. That was when the doorbell rang. I froze. No one ever came by without calling first. I stood slowly and walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw a woman standing outside. She looked about my age. Tired eyes. Tight lips. Hands clenched in front of her like she was holding herself together. I opened the door just a little. "Yes?" I asked. She looked at me and swallowed hard. "Eleanor," she said. "Yes." Her eyes filled with something I couldn't name. Sadness. Anger. Fear. "My name is Clara," she said. "We need to talk. About your husband." My knees almost gave out. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. The same table where my family had shared meals for decades. Clara looked around slowly. "He did well," she said quietly. "Built a good life." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I already knew. She took a deep breath. "That man you married," she said, "is not the man he was before." I gripped the edge of the table. "Who was he?" She looked straight at me. "A man who disappeared the night my brother was arrested," she said. My heart slammed against my chest. "Arrested for what?" I whispered. "For something he didn't do." The room felt like it was closing in. Clara continued, her voice shaking. "Your husband vanished. New name. New life. And my brother went to prison alone." I shook my head. "No, he wouldn't." She reached into her bag and placed a photograph on the table. It was old. Faded. But I knew the face. Younger. Thinner. But unmistakably him. "This was taken the year before he disappeared," Clara said. "That's him. That's the man you married." My hands shook as I picked up the photo. "I loved him," she continued bitterly. "Trusted him. And he left us to carry his sins." "Sins?" I asked. Clara leaned forward. "He wasn't just hiding," she said. "He was running from the truth." "What truth?" I whispered. She hesitated, then said the words that made my blood run cold. "There was money missing. A lot of it. And someone had to take the blame." I dropped the photo. Money. Lies. Disappearing. My family. My children. My whole life. Built on stolen ground. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A new message. "He's coming home early." Clara stood up quickly. "I shouldn't have come," she said. "He can't know I was here." "Wait," I begged. "Please, tell me everything." She shook her head. "If I say more, you'll be in danger." She walked to the door, then stopped. "When the truth finally comes out," she said softly, "they will ask one question." "What question?" I asked. She looked back at me. "They will ask if you knew." The door closed behind her. I stood there alone, shaking. Minutes later, I heard the front door open. His footsteps. His voice. "I'm home." I wiped my face quickly and turned around. He stood there smiling. But his eyes went to the empty chair across from the table, then to the photo lying on the floor. His smile disappeared. He looked at me slowly and said, "Who was here, Eleanor?" And in that moment I knew. The lie I was living had just been exposed. And whatever he did next would change everything. The room went silent after he asked that question. "Who was here, Eleanor?" His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that sits on top of something dark and dangerous. I followed his eyes down to the photograph on the floor. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. "I dropped something," I said quickly, bending down to pick it up. But he was faster. He stepped forward and picked it up himself. The moment he saw the picture, all the color drained from his face. For a long second, he said nothing. Then he laughed. A short, dry laugh. "Where did you get this?" he asked. I looked at him and saw it clearly for the first time. The mask had slipped. The gentle husband. The loving father. The proud grandfather. They were gone. Standing in front of me was a man who had been cornered. It was in the attic, I lied. In an old box. He studied my face closely, like he was searching for cracks. That box was empty, he said. My stomach dropped. He took a step closer. Someone was here, he said quietly. Wasn't there. I shook my head. No. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he sighed and rubbed his face like he was tired. You shouldn't be digging into things you don't understand, he said. It's not good for your health. There it was. The warning. I just wanted answers, I said softly. Answers destroy families, he replied. Is that what you want? I thought of Clara. I thought of her brother. I thought of my children laughing in this same room. No, I said. He nodded slowly, as if pleased. Good, he said. Because once the past is opened, it can't be closed again. He handed me the photo and walked away. I stood there shaking. That night, he locked the attic door. I heard the click. And I knew then. I was no longer free in my own home. The next few days felt unreal. He became overly kind. He cooked. He cleaned. He asked if I was tired. If I needed anything. It felt like a performance. A reminder of what I could lose. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. The unknown number kept sending messages. He knows. You're running out of time. Your children deserve the truth. I wanted to scream. One afternoon, my daughter came over with the children. The house filled with laughter. Toys on the floor. Little voices calling him, Grandpa. He smiled at them, hugged them, played with them. And all I could see was the man from the video. The man from the photograph. The man who stole another person's life. Later, while he was outside with the kids, my daughter pulled me aside. Mom, she said gently, is everything okay between you and Dad? My throat tightened. Yes, I said automatically. She frowned. You seem different. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to say, your father isn't who you think he is. But then I looked at her face. Her soft eyes. Her trust. And I stayed silent. That night, after everyone left, he poured us both a drink. We should talk, he said. I sat down slowly. He took a sip and looked at me. You've been married to me for a long time, he said. You know I've made mistakes. Mistakes. I whispered. Yes, he said calmly. But I fixed them. By disappearing? I asked before I could stop myself. His eyes hardened. So you do know, he said. The room felt colder. I know enough, I said. He leaned back in his chair. Then let me explain, he said. I did what I had to do. To save yourself, I replied. To survive, he corrected. And the people you left behind? I asked. He shrugged. They survived too. I stared at him in disbelief. My whole life, I said, was built on your lie. He leaned forward. And it was a good life, he said. Wasn't it? I didn't answer. He reached for my hand. You can still protect it, he said softly. Protect the children. Protect our family. What are you asking me to do? I asked. Nothing, he said. Just, stop digging. I pulled my hand away. And if I don't? I asked. He stood up slowly. Then the truth will hurt everyone, he said. Especially you. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried until my chest hurt. I realized something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of the truth coming out. He was confident he could control it. The next morning, I woke up alone. His side of the bed was empty. On the pillow was my phone. And a note. I had to take care of something. Don't do anything stupid. My hands shook as I turned on the phone. There was one new message. From my son. Mom, Dad didn't show up for work. His office says they don't know who he is. I felt the room spin. Then another message came through. From the unknown number. He's disappearing again. And suddenly, I understood. He wasn't running anymore. He was preparing to erase himself. And this time, he might take my family down with him. For a long time, I just sat there on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. My son's message burned into my eyes. His office says they don't know who he is. I read it again. And again. My hands felt numb. My mouth was dry. The house felt too big, too empty, like it was already mourning something that wasn't gone yet. Then my phone buzzed again. It was my daughter this time. "Mom," she said, her voice tight with worry. "Where is Dad?" He didn't answer my calls. I closed my eyes. I don't know, I said softly. There was a pause. "That's not like him," she said. "Something's wrong." Yes, I thought. Something is very wrong. After we hung up, I slowly walked through the house. Every room felt different now. The walls, the furniture, the photos on the shelves, they all looked like evidence in a crime I had ignored for too long. I stopped in front of our wedding picture. We were young, smiling, hopeful. I touched the glass with trembling fingers. Who were you that day? I wondered. And who was I marrying? The unknown number sent another message. He's clearing his tracks. My heart sank. What does that mean? I typed back. The reply came a moment later. Accounts. Records. Contacts. He's done this before. So this wasn't panic. This was a plan. I felt sick. I grabbed my coat and keys. I couldn't sit still anymore. If he was disappearing, then I had to move faster than he was. I drove to the bank first. When I walked inside, the teller greeted me politely. I gave her our account details. She frowned slightly and typed on her computer. "I'm sorry," she said. "Which account did you want to check?" "Our joint savings," I said. "And the checking account." She typed again. "I'm not seeing a joint account under that name," she said slowly. My heart skipped. "That's not possible," I said. "We've had it for years." She called her manager. After a few minutes of quiet typing and whispers, the manager looked at me with a careful expression. "There was an account," she said. "But it was closed yesterday." Closed. My legs felt weak. "By whom?" I asked. She hesitated. "By your husband. He came in person." My stomach dropped. "How much was taken out?" I whispered. "All of it," she said gently. I thanked them and walked out, barely aware of where I was going. In the car, I finally broke down. I cried until my chest hurt, until my vision blurred. He hadn't just lied to me. He had prepared for this moment. When I got home, there was a car in the driveway. My daughter. I barely had time to park before she rushed toward me. "Mom," she said, grabbing my arms. "What's going on?" I looked at her face. So much fear. So much confusion. "I need you to sit down," I said. Inside, my son was already there. His jaw was tight. His eyes were angry. "He hasn't answered me either," he said. "And his workplace says they never officially hired him." "Mom, what does that even mean?" I sat down slowly. This was it. The moment Clara warned me about. "They will ask if you knew." "I didn't know everything," I said, my voice shaking. "But I know now." They both stared at me. "Know what?" my daughter asked. I took a deep breath. "The man you call Dad is not who he says he is." The silence that followed was heavy. My son stood up. "What are you talking about?" I told them. Not all of it. Not yet. I told them about the fake name. About the disappearing past. About the money. I did not tell them everything. Not about Clara's brother. Not about the crime. Not yet. My daughter started crying. My son punched the wall. You knew something was wrong, he said, his voice breaking. And you didn't tell us. I was trying to protect you, I said. From what? He shouted. The truth. At that moment, my phone buzzed. A message from the unknown number. He's watching your house. My blood ran cold. I looked toward the window. The curtains moved slightly. I stood up slowly. Get away from the windows, I said. My children looked at me in fear. What's happening? My daughter whispered. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Unknown caller. I answered with shaking hands. His voice came through the line. Calm. Familiar. Eleanor, he said. I told you not to do anything stupid. My son grabbed the phone from me. Where are you? He shouted. What did you do? There was a pause. Then my husband spoke. You shouldn't have told them, he said. The line went dead. Seconds later, a loud knock echoed through the house. Not the front door. The back door. My daughter screamed. I looked at my children, my heart breaking. Whatever he was running from, it had finally caught up to us. And whoever was standing on the other side of that door was about to destroy what was left of my family. The knocking came again. Harder this time. Bang, bang, bang. Not angry. Not rushed. Controlled. My son moved toward the back door without thinking. No! I shouted, grabbing his arm. Don't open it. My daughter was shaking, holding on to the edge of the couch like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Mom, she whispered. Who is that? Before I could answer, a voice came through the door. Eleanor, the voice said calmly. It's not him. I froze. That voice didn't belong to my husband. It was older, rougher, tired. I just want to talk, the man said, before he disappears again. I felt my knees weaken. Slowly, carefully, I walked to the door and looked through the small window. A man stood outside. Gray hair, heavy coat, eyes that looked like they had seen too much. He raised his hands gently so I could see them. My name is Daniel, he said. I'm here because of the man you married. My son stepped beside me. How do we know you're not lying? Daniel looked at him with something like sadness. Because if I wanted to hurt you, he said quietly, I wouldn't be knocking. I opened the door just enough to speak. What do you want? I asked. To warn you, he said. And to ask you something. What? I whispered. Did he leave already? I didn't answer. Daniel sighed. That tells me everything. I stepped aside and let him in. The moment he entered the house, the air felt heavier, like the walls themselves were listening. Daniel looked around slowly. Same kind of place, he said. He always chooses places like this. Quiet. Safe. Full of trust. My daughter crossed her arms tightly. Who are you? Daniel sat down slowly. I was the one who went to prison for him, he said. The words landed like a bomb. My son stared at him. What? Daniel looked straight at me. Clara is my sister. My chest tightened. He took the money, Daniel continued, moved it, hid it, and when everything fell apart, he vanished. My daughter covered her mouth. I was young, Daniel said. I trusted him. I signed papers I shouldn't have. And when the police came, he was already gone. My son's fists clenched. How long? He asked. Daniel looked at the floor. 17 years. 17 years. That was longer than some marriages. Why now? I asked. Because he contacted me, Daniel said. My heart dropped. He contacted you, my son repeated. Yes, Daniel said. 2 weeks ago. Said he was in trouble again. Said he needed help disappearing. My daughter started crying. And you came here? She asked. I came to stop him, Daniel said. Or at least slow him down. Where is he now? My son demanded. Daniel hesitated. He's planning to leave the country, he said. He's done it before. My stomach turned. He took our money, I whispered. Daniel nodded. That's how he starts. Silence filled the room. Then my daughter spoke through tears. All those years, she said. All those birthdays, holidays. None of it mattered to him? Daniel looked at her gently. I think, he said slowly, he did love you. In his own way. That's not love, my son snapped. That's theft. I stood up, my hands shaking. You said you wanted to ask me something, I said. What is it? Daniel looked at me carefully. When he contacted me, he said, he told me one thing. What? I asked. Daniel swallowed. He said if things went wrong, you would protect him. My chest felt tight. Did you tell him you would? Daniel asked. I shook my head. No. Daniel nodded. Good. Then he leaned forward. Because the police are involved now. My daughter gasped. They reopened the case, Daniel said. His old case. And now, yours may be part of it. My mother didn't do anything, my son said angrily. I know, Daniel said. But silence can look like protection. The words cut deep. At that moment, my phone buzzed again. A new message. From my husband. I never wanted you involved. This is your last chance to stay quiet. My hands trembled. Daniel watched my face closely. He's close, isn't he? He asked. Before I could answer, headlights flashed through the window. A car pulled into the driveway. Slowly. Deliberately. My daughter screamed softly. My son moved in front of me without thinking. Daniel stood up, his face pale. That's him, he said. He came to make sure you choose him. The front door handle began to turn. And in that moment, I realized the truth. This wasn't just about who my husband really was. It was about who I was going to be now. The door opened, and the man I married stepped inside, carrying something in his hand that made my heart stop. The moment I saw what was in his hand, my breath left my body. It wasn't a weapon. That almost made it worse. It was a folder. Thick. Worn. Stuffed with papers. He stood in the doorway like he still belonged there, like this was still his home, his family, his life. His coat was dusty. His eyes looked tired, but sharp, too sharp for a man claiming innocence. Everyone looks so scared, he said softly. That hurts me. No one answered. My daughter clutched my arm. My son stood in front of us like a shield. Daniel didn't move an inch. His eyes locked on the man he had once trusted with his freedom. You shouldn't be here, Daniel said calmly. My husband smiled faintly. And yet, here I am. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The sound echoed through the room like a final warning. I told you not to involve them, he said, looking straight at me. I didn't, I whispered. The truth did. He sighed, as if disappointed. I gave you a good life, he said. I gave all of you a good life. You stole it, my son snapped. My husband turned slowly to face him. I protected it, he corrected. From a world that would have destroyed us. Daniel laughed bitterly. That's what you call it. My husband's eyes flicked to him. You shouldn't have come. And you shouldn't have run, Daniel replied. Silence stretched between them. Then my husband placed the folder on the table. These, he said, are documents. Accounts. Proof. Proof of what? My daughter asked through tears. Proof, he said carefully, that if I go down, so do you. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? I asked. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. You signed papers you never read, he said gently. You stood beside me when things were moved. When names were changed. I didn't know, I said desperately. That won't matter, he replied. Not to them. Daniel stepped forward. You're threatening her now? I'm explaining reality, my husband said coldly. My son shook his head. You're lying. My husband opened the folder and slid a page across the table. My name was on it. My signature. The room spun. I began. You trusted me, he said softly. That was enough. Tears streamed down my face. All those years, my daughter whispered. You used Mom. I loved her, he said quickly. I still do. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. Love doesn't look like this. My husband's voice hardened. I came here to give her a choice, he said. What choice? I asked, barely able to speak. He leaned closer. Come with me, he said. Leave tonight. We disappear together. My children gasped. I won't, I said immediately. His jaw tightened. Then stay quiet, he said. Say nothing. Do nothing. Let me go. And if I don't? I asked. He straightened up. Then the police will hear everything, he said. And they won't care that you didn't understand. My son shouted. You're evil. My husband flinched. Just for a second. I'm a survivor, he said. At that moment, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Daniel looked toward the window. They're coming, he said. My husband's eyes narrowed. He turned to me one last time. This is it, he said. Me, or them. My heart felt like it was tearing in two. My children. My grandchildren. My life built on a lie. And the man I married, standing in front of me, waiting for my answer. I opened my mouth to speak. And suddenly, the lights went out. The house fell into darkness. And in the confusion, someone screamed. The scream cut through the darkness like a knife. For one terrifying second, no one moved. The house was completely black. No lights. No sound except heavy breathing and my own heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Mom! My daughter cried. I'm here, I said quickly, reaching out with shaking hands. I felt her fingers grip mine like she was drowning. Stay together, my son said, his voice tight but steady. No one move. Somewhere near the table, a chair scraped against the floor. Don't be stupid, my husband's voice said from the darkness. This helps no one. I felt something change inside me at that moment. For weeks, no, for years, I had lived quietly, carefully, trusting, letting life happen to me instead of choosing it. But standing there in the dark, hearing fear in my children's voices, something hardened in my chest. I was done being afraid. Daniel, I said firmly, are you still here? Yes, he answered from nearby, right by the door. The sirens outside grew louder, closer. My husband cursed under his breath. This is your fault, he hissed at me. You forced my hand. No, I said. My voice surprised even me. You did. There was a sudden movement, a rush of air as he lunged toward the table. Stop, my son shouted. Then the lights flickered back on. For a split second, everything was frozen like a picture. My husband was standing by the table, the folder open, papers spilling onto the floor. Daniel was near the door, one hand raised. My daughter was pressed against me, shaking. My son was standing between us and him, fists clenched. And my husband's eyes. They were wild. The sirens were right outside now. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Police! A voice shouted from outside. Open the door. Everything happened at once. My husband grabbed the folder and ran toward the hallway. No! I shouted. Daniel moved fast, blocking his path. You're not running this time, Daniel said. My husband laughed. A sharp, broken sound. You think you can stop me? He snapped. Then he turned to me. And for a moment, just a moment, I saw something real on his face. Fear. If you say one word, he said quietly, they will tear your life apart. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The lies. The manipulation. The stolen years. And I thought of my grandchildren's faces. I took a deep breath. I'm done protecting you, I said. The words felt heavy. Final. My husband's face collapsed. No, he whispered. The front door burst open. Police officers flooded into the room, guns raised. Hands where we can see them. My husband froze. Daniel stepped back, raising his hands. It's him, Daniel said. That's the man you're looking for. My husband looked at me one last time. You promised forever, he said softly. I felt tears in my eyes, but my voice didn't shake. I promised a lie, I said. And I'm done living it. The officers moved in, handcuffs clicking shut around his wrists. My daughter sobbed into my shoulder. My son let out a breath he'd been holding for years. As they led my husband away, he turned his head toward me. This isn't over, he said. You don't know what you've done. The door closed behind him. The house fell silent again. This time, the silence felt different. Heavy. Real. One of the officers approached me gently. Ma'am, he said, we need to ask you some questions. I nodded. Daniel looked at me with something like relief. You did the right thing, he said. I wasn't so sure. Because even as they took him away, I knew something terrible. The folder. The documents. My signature. The truth was only halfway out. And soon, my children would learn just how deep his lie went. And how close I had come to losing everything. As the officer opened his notebook and looked at me, he asked the question I had feared from the start. Mrs. Eleanor, when did you first realize your husband wasn't who he claimed to be? I opened my mouth to answer. And in that moment, I understood. The hardest part of this story had not even begun yet. The officer's pen hovered over his notebook. Mrs. Eleanor, he asked gently, when did you first realize your husband wasn't who he claimed to be? For a moment, I couldn't speak. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud made everything real. It started with a message, I said finally. A video. A name that didn't belong to him. The officer nodded and wrote. What did you do after that? He asked. I looked at my children sitting across from me. My daughter's eyes were red and swollen. My son looked older somehow, like the night had aged him years. I tried to protect them, I said quietly. I thought silence would keep them safe. The officer closed his notebook slowly. Sometimes, he said kindly, silence protects the wrong person. I nodded. I understood that now. The days that followed were heavy and long. The police came back again and again. They asked about documents, accounts, signatures. Yes, my name was on some papers. Yes, I had signed them. No, I did not know what they truly meant. Daniel kept his word. He told them everything. Every detail. Every lie. Every disappearance. Clara came too. She sat with me in the same kitchen where my life had fallen apart. I never hated you, she said softly. I hated what he did. I held her hand and cried. For her brother, for my children, for the woman I used to be. The police believed me. Not because I was innocent, but because I finally told the truth. My husband was charged. Fraud. Identity theft. Financial crimes. The man I married, the man I defended, the man I loved. He was sentenced for the life he stole. When I saw him one last time in court, he looked smaller, older, empty. He did not look at me. I think he knew. He had lost control. At home, things were quiet. Too quiet. One evening, my daughter sat beside me on the couch. I'm angry, she said honestly. But I don't hate you. Tears filled my eyes. I should have told you sooner, I said. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You told us when it mattered most, she replied. My son joined us, sitting on the floor like he used to as a child. We'll rebuild, he said. Together. That word, together, meant everything. Months passed. The house slowly felt like home again. Not the old home. A new one. Built on truth. I still wake up some nights, reaching for someone who isn't there anymore. But I don't miss the lie. I miss who I thought he was. And that grief, I've learned to live with. One afternoon, my granddaughter climbed into my lap and asked, Grandma, why don't we see Grandpa anymore? I took a deep breath and said gently, because sometimes grown-ups make very bad choices. She nodded, satisfied. Children understand more than we think. Now, I sit here telling you this story for a reason. Because some of you listening right now are living with secrets that are hurting you. Because some of you are protecting people who don't deserve your silence. And because sometimes, the truth feels like it will destroy everything. But in the end, it may be the only thing that saves you. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on your notifications so you never miss stories like mine. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Your voice matters. Your story matters. Remember this. You are not weak for trusting. You are not foolish for loving. And you are never too old to choose the truth. Because when the lie finally ends, that's when real life begins.